Hi, folks. This is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. I want to talk about matching the system. And I think this is something that for some of us could be really important. But even if you're not an avid fisherman, this might be interesting to learn about this, because every part of the system that you're using should work together. And what do I mean by a system? I'm talking about your rod, your reel, your line, the lures. Everything should work together. If you're using a sort of heavy, stiff-action rod, then you need to be using heavier line. You're probably using a bigger lure. They all work together. And I was watching something. There was a new lure that I found the other day in one of our local shops. And I'd never heard of it, so I went online to find out about it. And there was a video about this guy fishing it. But here's what was interesting. He said, don't make the mistake that I made. I used the wrong rod when I went out fishing this, and I was getting strikes, but the way they were striking, I wasn't hooking them. And so what he was doing, and this lure was a crankbait, a bait with a lip, the hard plastic crankbait that had two sets of treble hooks. Okay, so what would happen is the fish, the way they were striking it, because the rod was so stiff, he was either pulling the lure out of their mouth and not getting a hook set. So what he had to do was change to a rod with a more whippy tip, so that as he was bringing that lure along at a fairly decent speed, the rod absorbed the initial shock of the strike and allowed the hook and allowed the motion to set the hook. And so he wasn't pulling the hook out of the fish. And it sort of tells you why matching the system can be so critical. You know, if you look at the pros, and if you look at the bass boat and how it's rigged for the pros, they've got like 10 different rods laying there on the bottom of the boat, ready to they can pick up one or the other depending on what lure they're using, what depth of water they're going to. Every rod action has a certain type of lure that it works best with. To the pros. Now, they believe this. It's probably true. It takes it way levels further than I go, but it's something that's important to think about. And then the type of line you use. And we talk about this. If you're using a bait that you want to fish near or on the surface, you don't want a line that sinks down because it'll pull it down. So if you're fishing near the surface, maybe you want to use monofilament or braid, which will float, as opposed to fluorocarbon, which is going to sink. But if you're using deep diving lures or jigs or something near the bottom or a drop shot, then you want fluorocarbon because it's going to keep it down there in, quote, the fish zone. And you can take every aspect of that tackle, and if you can match it together, then what you have is a fine-honed tool that will do the job best for you. And of course, this is all going to depend on what you want to get out of fishing. Is it just catching the fish? Is it enjoying being out there? Or are you competing? And is it important to you that you catch the most fish compared to the other people around you? There's so many different aspects. But having a finely matched system can make you a better fisherman, and it can make you have a better time. And it can make every lure that you select work better if you match it to the right reel, line, and rod. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.